Hi, and welcome to Lutz and Glory. I'm Kathy.
I'm Bronwyn.
And I'm Will, and today's recap is our second part of our 2016 World Figure Skating Championships recap. We're very excited to get going. So let's start off right away with the pairs champion, Megan Duhamel and Eric Radford from Canada defending their world title. What did you guys make of their programs here in Boston?
Yeah, it was kind of surprised because I don't think they were the favorites for the title, let alone they were fighting to stay on the podium. That's what everyone thought going into this championship. However, they put out probably the two best performances of their career. They did an amazing job, especially in the long program, to win their world title for the second year in a row. And while they're not my favorite team, admittedly, I was definitely rooting for Sui and Han, who we will talk about. I definitely am just major kudos to them. I have so much respect for them because that performance was just probably the best they've ever done. And you can see they're not the most artistic, they don't have the best line, but they are giving a lot more than they did last year, and it's feeling a lot more natural and real and raw. And like I said, I'm just very impressed by their performance. And honestly, just so much respect for that long program. It was seriously really good.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by their grit this season. They haven't been undefeated by any means, but they came here and they definitely were ready to skate like champions, and they produced great results. And their free skate, it was really clean, and they landed a huge throw quad salchow, which was really impressive, and obviously a great achievement for them because they've had struggles with that in the past.
Yeah, I would definitely say they're a resilient team this season. They've overcome a lot of adversity and a lot of naysayers saying they couldn't defend their world title. They were not looking as strong as they looked last season, and I think they proved everyone wrong, especially with the free skate, which was just really another great moment from these World Championships. You could see it building from the time they landed the Lutzes and the quad sal, the quad. It was wonderful. I think they did themselves a solid with this world title and their two performances. So now let's move on to the silver medalists from China, Sui and Han. I had a great, wonderful short program. I'm in love with that program. The choreography, the music, their commitment to the character of the music is just masterful, as well as the choreography done by Laurie Nickel. Just a fabulous job and a fabulous package. That short program is not their greatest free skate, but still good enough to hang on for the silver medal, and I wouldn't call it a disaster or anything like that. They still did really well for themselves here, and I'm so glad to see where they're going to go. What did you guys make of Sui and Han?
I totally agree with you. Sweet Han are probably my favorite pair to watch right now. They are just so dynamic, and even though they don't have a very large height difference between them, they can still pull off these massively explosive elements, whether it be their twists or their throws. Just so impressive. And on top of that, they're like the best of both worlds because they have that technical firepower, but they also have this great style and this great finesse about their skating that has just continued to get stronger and stronger. I think their short program is just absolutely stunning, especially when the flamenco comes in the step sequence and they turn it on, and I was so blown away by them, and I really can't wait to see where they go from here because honestly, I know that I'm sure that they'll be able to top this. I'm so excited to see their future, you know?
Yeah, for such a young team, Sui and Han, I think, have a lot of range, and that works to their favor, definitely, especially this season with their two programs that are sort of very different in style and genre of music. But we saw them getting not their best here necessarily, but certainly nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, capping off your season with a silver at the World Championships is great, especially after, we know that they've been battling injury on and off for a little while. So moving on to the bronze medalists, Savchenko and Massot of Germany. So obviously a new partnership. I believe Bruno was only released to compete for Germany this in the fall of 2015. So this is their first full season together. And for that, this is obviously an incredible achievement. Bronze at the World Championships. They're known for their huge triple twist. It's so high and so elegant and just effortless. And there's a lot of things about this team that I really enjoy. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, they're definitely wonderful. You can tell there's a marked difference between them and pairs like Stobova and Klimov and Sui and Han and these pairs that have been together for a really long time. There just isn't that connection yet between them, and no one expects that from them this early on. Granted, I think their component scores are a little bit generous. I think they're both incredible skaters. They both have such strong basics, and Aliona is just a machine. She's like not a human being. She was wonderful with Robin. I absolutely loved her, and she is just in fabulous shape, and she was fantastic here, as well as Bruno here in Boston. And their elements are so sound. Everything they have is so sound. I just think they need to work on building that connection, and I think they'll be topping a few more podiums in their future.
No, I definitely agree. They are still, you can tell, and I think I've read in interviews as well, that they're still looking for their style as a team. And you can tell with their program choices, they went a little bit out there, but you can tell they're just still kind of searching, and that's okay because they are still so new. You can tell they don't want to be a Savchenko-Sokovy 2.0. They want to be Savchenko-Massot. And I really respect that outside of that, their technical elements are insane. And it's not just because of Aliona, too. If you look on the triple twist, Bruno's catch is really good as well. It's not muscled out. He just grabs her squarely on the hips, and you don't have to worry about it at all, and it's really impressive. I'm sure that the height difference does help a little bit, but when she's going that high, you need to be able to, catch her as she's still coming down because it's going to be a lot faster. I don't know that much about pairs techniques, but that's my theory. But yeah, I'm very impressed by their debut here at World, and you know that Aliona probably came back because everyone talks about it, how she really wants an Olympic gold medal. I don't know how much weight I put to that theory, but I do think that they look really good, and I think they're on a really good track for 2018.
Okay. So moving on to the fourth place finishers, Stobova and Klimov of Russia. Actually, Team Russia in the pairs event finished 4th, 5th, and 6th in a row. We'll get to that later. But Stobova and Klimov had not their best performance, I'd say, but still a pretty solid 2 programs here at Worlds. I'm really impressed with their free skate, especially. It's not your traditional, very showy, pairs program where the two partners are engaged in that sort of predictable romantic or relationship or anything like that, but it's a more abstract, I think, interpretation of the music, which I enjoy, and it really plays to their strengths because both of them are sort of that subtle, maybe sort of quiet kind of performers, and so I think that really works their favor. Again, like Sui and Han, they've been battling injury this year. They had to withdraw from Europeans, for example. So to come back and to place 4th at Worlds is a really solid way to end your competitive season.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy whenever I see them in a field. I feel like they just add so much to the depth of world pairs and of European pairs and Russian pairs. I think they're a team that contrasts greatly to a lot of teams here. Like you said, Kathy, they interpret their music differently. There's something about it that they understand, they grab a hold of and they manipulate to their advantage that I don't think other teams or other creative teams would work to delve into. I think they just have a deeper understanding of their music, and even though they don't have the sunniest relationship either on or off the ice, not speculating, just based on what they look like on the ice, they don't they're not super cheery and super close, But I think it's a very, very effective business partnership. But still, their skating doesn't come across like it's phoned in or like it's work. It's still very effortless, and they have a lot of lovely qualities. And I was happy to see them fight back with a really good free skate. What were your thoughts, Bronwyn?
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit on the business partner thing. They actually seem a lot happier this season than they did last season, even despite all their injuries. And I think like there's more of a mutual understanding between them that you couldn't really see last season. And although they were still kind of like all season after their phenomenal long program at the Grand Prix final, they just had so many injury issues and lots of struggles that it was kind of hard to see them repeating that. But moving forward, I am, as always, I'm excited to see what comes next for them. I really like the concept of their long program. And side note, if I could buy like a normal version of her dress in that program, I totally would. I don't know if it'd look as good on me as it does on Ksenia, but I am in love with that dress. And now to not be totally shallow. Yeah, and like there are technical elements as well outside of the twist, because we know that they have issues with the twist, but their throws and when they land them, the triple is insane. It's so good. So I really like them. I know it was kind of more of a struggle this season, but they just seem, I get more of a happier vibe from them than they did, and they seem a lot more comfortable. Even with all of their injuries, I think they're in good shape.
So let's move on to the sixth place finishers, Tatiana Voloshassar and Maxim Trankov. Surprisingly, the lowest finishing of the three Russian teams here, especially after the short program. I was expecting them to at least stay on the podium and even move up a couple places on that podium. But they were hampered by a botched lift and their side-by-side triple Salchows, which was intended to be a combination. And it really, really killed their technical score, unfortunately. A bit of a rocky comeback season. I don't think anyone had particularly high expectations of them, because comeback seasons are always so difficult, and it's inherent to the nature of comeback seasons that it's not going to go exactly the way you want it to. But still, sixth place at your first World Championship back is certainly respectable. I'll have to say I didn't love their programs this season. I felt that Dracula was stronger than the short program, but still there was something lacking between performance-wise, especially. I mean, they still have the jumps. I mean, their throws are unbelievable. The technique is just ridiculous, but something's missing. There's a little bit of a spark or some certain inexplicable quality that they had, I think, during the Olympic season, just this buzz around them that I don't think they had this season or really with these performances here at Worlds. What did you guys think of Tatiana and Max?
No, I agree with you, especially when it comes to their programs. I wasn't the biggest fan of their programs either. I will say that their short program, this was by far the best performance of it all season, not only just in terms of like cleanliness and how good the technique was, the performance, they gave it a lot more than they had all season. I was very impressed by that. So it made it all the more shocking when the wheels came completely off in the long program, especially after they had a solid showing at Europeans and won the title there. So I honestly don't know what to say about it, because I wasn't expecting, I didn't have super high expectations of them, but I wasn't expecting them to fall off that badly. I'm sure they'll be able to come back from it if they want to. And I don't know if they're still aiming for 2018 or not. I've seen a little bit of wariness, but if they are, I really hope that this fuels them and this gives them a fire to go forward, and like it doesn't beat them down more.
Yeah, taking this season off after an Olympic year, it's such a personal choice that you can't really, necessarily fault somebody for doing that. But I think in this case, it might have hurt them a little bit, especially since in the season that they were gone, pairs skating has progressed a lot in terms of the technical side. I think now we're seeing that quad twists and quad throws are no longer an anomaly, and that a lot of the top pairs teams are at least training one, if not putting one in competition. So I think that aspect is one in which we're kind of seeing Velocity and Trinkov trying to play catch up to. But other than that, their skating skills, their transitions, the chemistry with each other, they're as strong as ever. And I don't think they've lost any of that, by taking a season off. I think I still would consider it a successful comeback just because they did put out a really strong short program, and it wasn't like that clean short program was a fluke by any means. They've had pretty consistent results at all the competitions they've competed at this season. So going forward, I know they're working on harder technical elements, and I applaud that because I think that's definitely going to be necessary in the future. I don't think personally that their superior skating skills and all of that I mentioned, the component side, I don't think that's going to be enough to quite carry them to the top of the world podium going forward. But yeah, that's how I see their trajectory going, and whether or not they make it to 2018, I think they have a lot to be proud of and a lot to celebrate in terms of what they've achieved with each other.
Definitely. And I think I just remember from the Olympic season, they were the most technically progressive team. They were the ones that were pushing the other teams, and now they're being pushed. So I think that this comeback season was really, really good for them, and this World Championships was really good for them, because now I think they're going to work as hard as ever to really get their technical side up and really work to perfect their new programs and use all of the great qualities and aspects of their skating that they already have and just milk them to their optimum potential and just everything they can be, because they aren't any less talented or any less good than they were in Sochi or that Olympic season, So I think this comeback season and not placing on the podium at these World Championships will, in the long run, be really good for them. Quickly, let's mention Evgenia Tarasova and Vladimir Morozov putting together two relatively clean skates. Finishing in the top 5, really, really good for them. They again have fantastic technique, a lovely twist. Anything you guys have to say about them?
I really can't wait for them to find their style. I'm not really a fan of theirs. I do think the short program is a step in the right direction, but not to be rude. I really don't want to be rude. That's the last thing I want to do. But they're pretty forgettable for me. I'm just really not a fan, but I do like their technique, and I do think that they have the potential to have, because I see a lot of personality from them when they're done with their performances. I really can't wait to see if they'll be able to come up with their own style that really makes them stand out. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I have to say. I really like their technique, and I want them to do well, but I really hope they can find their own style, and that pushes them more to the forefront.
Yeah, especially in the context of Russian pairs, which, as we know, are so strong. It's unfortunate that Tarasova and Morozov can be so easily overlooked, but I think that, like Bronwyn said, it's about finding what makes them unique and what sets them apart, whether that be in terms of artistry or elements. And I think they're young, so they have time. They have plenty of time to find their groove, so to speak, in the world of pairs. So moving on to the Canadian pairs, who we'll give a quick mention to, they also finished back-to-back in 7th and 8th place, with Ilyusheshkina and Moskovich coming in 8th. What did you guys think of their performances here?
Actually, they came in 7th.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. But they were wonderful. I loved seeing, especially their free program was just such a moment. They had that one mistake on the side-by-side sow cows, but I'm just so pleased to see how they've sort of set the precedent for other new teams, like Savchenko and Massot. I think they have the chemistry. I think they work and they skate so well together. They're so beautifully matched. And they both give equally to the performance. You can tell one isn't pulling the other, one doesn't wear the pants, so to speak, in the relationship. Especially on the ice, I mean. I just think they're both so equally committed to the character, and they both have such really, really strong technique and really strong jumps. I'm so glad to see them do really well here. What are your thoughts on Ilya Sheshkin and Moskowitz, Bronwyn?
Okay, I'm really excited because I love them. Oh my god. I was so impressed by their performances. We know they're not necessarily the most consistent pair, and I've actually heard that Dylan was dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. So the fact that they were able to make it through, not only with Dylan being injured, but putting out pretty much the best two performances of their career so far, is just totally impressive. I love their short program. I think it's just so cool. It's different. It actually came from a fan suggestion, which is also really, really cool. And they just have some of the best, like, they have just things that make you take notice and they stand out. Like the cantilever to the death spiral is just, when they nail that, it is like, it's going guaranteed to get applause. And like for a death spiral, like that's awesome. And that's not necessarily the most like crowd-pleasing element, but they managed to do it. And I can't wait to see their programs next season, especially, like I said, I totally fell in love with the short program. I thought it was brilliant, and I think they're just, if they can keep this up, they're going to solidify their place on Canada's like number 3 team for sure. They were kind of there, but they were also a little bit iffy. They didn't have the strongest season so far until this Worlds, but if they keep this trajectory up, there's just so much in store for them, I think.
I totally agree with you. I think their programs this year are fabulous and so unique and just full of personality. And I think that this partnership, what really strikes me about them is that they're sort of a study in contrast, because I think looking at them individually, Lubov and Dylan are pretty different skaters and different in just style and appearance, if I can go there. But other than that, I think that, at this Worlds, they were really close to breaking that 200-point mark in their total segment score, so which is a great step for them. And going forward, I think that as long as they keep working on their consistency, they continue to show us and to show the judges that they're a team that can be counted on, because they already have, everything else that you look for in a team. I think that they'll be really solid going forward.
Certainly. Yeah, let's move on to Kirsten and Michael, the third lowest of the Canadian teams, but still 8th place. Speaks to the depth of Canadian pairs and still breaking that 190 mark, which is, I think, a huge step for this team. He's getting better. It's almost like a part of a narrative that we have with Michael Marinaro. I think there's still more room to grow with this team. I think they can do more, especially in terms of their programs. I really love their short program. I prefer it to their free program. And I do like the versatility and the contrast between the two programs. And good on them for seizing the moment and finishing ahead of Alexa and Chris, who had an unfortunate long program. And moving up to 8th place, which I think was unexpected. I wouldn't have pegged them to finish ahead of Alexa and Chris. Kirsten, you can tell, just performs more composed, with more composure than Michael does still. But I think this is great for their confidence, and I think it's great for the off season, and I feel like it'll be great for their team harmony going forward, and I can't wait to see what they produce and how they'll be able to stack up against Lubov and Dylan in the coming years, because I think that's a brewing rivalry. What did you guys think of them here?
I totally agree with you. I really like their short program for them. I think that suits their style really well. It's fun. It not only does it suit their style, it especially suits Kirsten. And after their short program disaster heard round the world, at Canadian Nationals, for them to put out these really strong performances and remind people, hey, we're still in the game, is just a huge, huge step forward for them. I definitely agree with that. And I really wasn't really the biggest fan of their long program. I didn't know if that really suited them as well as the short program did. I think they're going to be a team to watch next season because they just have continually gotten better. They kind of had a bit of a breakout season this year, because last season they were there, but this season is where they're finally getting people to actually take notice of them. And I think there's just so much potential to be had. Michael still does need to improve, especially on the lifts. They still look pretty scratchy. But I think that this is a really big step forward and definitely a huge milestone in their progress.
Yeah, I don't have that much to add, but as far as the disparity between Kirsten's skating and Michael's, as much as we still see a little bit of that, I think that they've made a lot of progress on it over the past year, and for that, I really applaud them. And I think going forward, it's just going to be about, as with all new teams, it's just going to be about finding their voice out on the ice and how they present themselves to the world and to fans as a force to be reckoned with.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to, I'd say, the highly anticipated discipline at these World Championships, ladies. Let's start with our champion, Yevgenia Medvedeva of Russia, who had to fight back. I think a position she wasn't really used to being in this season. It seemed that she was just leading after every short program and sealing the deal with the free skate, but I think this speaks her mental her ability to just treat every competition the same and just homogenize the circumstances and just make them all seem like one competition is unbelievable. And the way she's able to just not make it seem like it's not a big deal, obviously she knows it's a big deal, but just minimize the pressure and just focus on herself. And I think that shows through her performance. I think she's able to center that ability to remain so self-conscious about her mental toughness and her performance while still being able to extend outward is really, really important and something she's found a lot of balance with. And, I mean, I'd say she was the favorite for this title, and she proved any naysayers wrong. It was really, really good on her for winning this title. What did you guys think of Medvedeva, and do you have anything else to add?
I agree with you. Her mental game is just so strong. You knew after that short program she was not going to lose the title without a fight. And the fact that she did exactly that, she came in and nailed every single jump in that long program, got all the spins, everything was really good. I do disagree with her breaking the world record, but it's more of a judging issue than with her herself. I'm not the biggest fan of her programs. I think her long program is a million times better than her short program. I think she deserves much better music than in the short program because the short program music makes me really sleepy. But I think I adore her, and I really respect her as a skater because she has that ability to, if she messes up, she's like, okay, I'm going to throw the triple toe on my loop. I'm going to go and kill the long program. You cannot count her out. I don't know, because we've kind of seen this trend of Russian ladies popping up and then dying out the next year. She has a mental game to continue. We'll see. We'll have to see where she goes from here. I really hope she continues to do well and to get better. I think the long program is a good step for her in that direction. I just hope that we see something a little bit more Yevgenia, in personality, because she's got loads of personality off the ice. You just don't really see that as strongly in her programs. But I really like her, and serious major kudos to her. What a great showing by her.
Yeah, Evgenia is really everything you look for in a competitor. She has that grit, she has that refusal to give up, and she's not perfect, but at the end of the day, she has what it takes to keep winning. And we've seen from practice videos and reports that she'll do triple, triple, triple at the end of every jump, just to make sure that if she, for whatever reason, botches one of her combinations, she can tack it on to the end of another jump, a solo jump. And as extreme as that measure is, I think it really speaks to her toughness as a skater, and it really speaks to how hard she works for everything she does. And so you really can't fault that. As far as the world record goes, I am a fan of her free skate. I do think it suits her style very well. It's age appropriate, it's quirky and charming, and I find myself just really enjoying it as a performance. But the to nitpick again here, the margin of points between her score and Yuna Kim's old world record was so small that if anything had gone wrong, if judges had given her even slightly lower in program components, that it would have made the difference. And in this case, I think her Lutz, especially in particular, was what made the difference. Because if you play it in slow motion, I think it's an unclear edge at best. But the fact that they didn't call her for that, probably obviously worked to her advantage and brought her over that world record mark. But at the end of the day, I don't think that was the most egregious, error in judging, and these things are so subjective that and sometimes it can just be the atmosphere and the moment and whether or not the crowd is with her, and all of those things play a factor. So I'm not going to fault her for the fact that she broke a world record, because was it a phenomenal performance? Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think one of the things that is so important to keep in mind is that Yuna Kim's world record has survived an entire Olympiad and a half, in which so much reform has happened with the rules, that the fact that that's been able to have the staying power that it's had doesn't diminish how good of a program that particular long program was, or certainly doesn't diminish how good of a program that long program was. And the fact that Yevgenia usurped Yuna in terms of that free skate world record, it doesn't mean any less of Yuna, and I think it even means more of Yuna that it took this long for someone to break the world record. But just good on Medvedeva. I'm excited to see what program she puts out next season. I would also like to see a little bit more versatility, though, because I definitely am. I so prefer the free skate to the short program, but I would say in terms of style, they're a bit similar. Not that she has to each season have like one like AC/DC and then one like Claude Debussy program. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I would like to see a little bit more seasonal diversity, which I think she'll bring. And I'm excited to see where she goes. Before we talk about Ashley, let's talk about Pogorelia, the bronze medalist, a surprise bronze medalist for sure. And I am so happy with what she was able to put out here in Boston. And her short program, I think, shocked a lot of people, especially after Europeans. After Europeans, I think she was so just fueled and ready to go. And I definitely think that was fire in her belly to perform well here at World, and she certainly took the best advantage of that and geared whatever negative energy she had in her system towards the most positive possible route. And I think it was just lovely to see her finish on the podium with such a strong short program and such a strong free program. And I'm really excited to see what she'll do next year and how she'll remain competitive, even domestically, because these Russian ladies, I mean, like, what else is there to say? So what did you guys make of Pogarelia's performances here at Worlds?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of hers. If you compare her skating now to 2014, the 2013-2014 season when she made her senior debut and kind of surprised people with her big resurgence that season, she's just improved leaps and bounds, honestly. I'm wildly impressed by her. I really like her short program, too. I think it suits her strengths as a skater a lot, and she performs it very, very well when she skates it clean like she did. And I'm just really impressed by her because I think there's a lot of things that she has that people don't really notice as much because she's usually not the top Russian. And she's kind of been, pushed to the people have seen her as like the girl who can reel off, another Russian with a triple who can do really well. And I think she's more than that. Her jumps are just so good and so secure when she does them well. When she doesn't do them well, we see what happens. They're kind of really scary. But when she does them well, we get performances like at Worlds. And her basics are just so solid. She's performing a lot better than she even did last year. And I'm just really happy that she managed to come away with the world medal, even though she definitely was not expected to at all, let alone place second in the short program. Very, very impressed by her. Can't wait to see what's happening next.
Yeah, considering that her spot on the world team was in jeopardy after Europeans, the fact that she came out and she was able to win a world bronze medal is so impressive to me, and I really appreciate the progress that she's made just over the past season alone. I think that given her choice of music in both the short and the free, it's so easy to be overwhelmed by that and to let the music take on a bigger presence than you, and for that to be a detriment to your skating. But she doesn't let that happen at all. I think she has a big personality, and something else that I find refreshing about her is that after the short program, I believe she said in the press conference, I wasn't ready to celebrate yet. It was just the short program. I hadn't gotten on the podium yet. And so I think that mindset is really an advantage for her, especially like we talked about in when you're a Russian lady and you're competing against 7 or 8 very qualified teammates in any given season. So her placement here was certainly unexpected, but certainly not undeserving. I think that she has some really powerful jumps, and when everything falls into place, she's a great skater, very pleasant to watch. There's still things that she could work on for sure. I'd like to see her extend more. I'd like to see her improve her posture. She's definitely worked on it, and you can see that if you compare her skating this season to her skating last season. You can see a marked difference, but there's still room to grow and still room to sort of polish up her skating and make her even more sophisticated of a performer.
Yeah, I totally agree. One more thing I want to add about her. Skating to a piece like Scheherazade in the free can be really dangerous, as we've seen with war horses, because people can so easily lump it into, another girl doing Scheherazade, another girl doing Carmen, another girl, blah, 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 And she made it her own. Something about the performance she made really unique, really uniquely her. And I think part of this growth through the seasons, through the Olympic season, through last season, and now to this season, part of the growth, I think, she's extended herself more. Something Yevgenia can definitely take note of. I think I definitely saw a lot more of Anna's personality out on the ice, and just such a genuine performer. I was really, really happy to see her do so well. Okay. Now let's move on to the 2016 World Silver Medalist from the USA, Ashley Wagner. You guys. I have nothing to say. I really have nothing to say. I mostly about the free skate, though. Just the free skate. The growth, the improvement, the effort she's made to make that the best it can be. And it was so good. The turnout on the flip didn't even matter. Everything else was just so superior. Just so good. So good. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see how far she's come. Oh my God, I am really happy. I'm really happy. Um, and I'm also really happy that she was able to stay in the game after the short program. That short program was magical. She had the crowd in the palm of her hand, and that program is just, and more so than the program, that dress has worked wonders for her this season. But I, yeah, not really, but um, it was just it was such a magical moment in both the short and the free. She is one of the most natural performers in the recent history of American ladies figure skating, honestly. The way she's able to just be herself and be so irreverent and so accessible is just so amazing. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see where she'll go. This is what we've been wanting for her for so long. This is what we've known that she can do and she can have and she can be for so long. And she finally did it. And she's proven it again, as we saw last night at Teen Challenge Cup, did another unbelievable short program. Um, what did you guys think of Ashley?
Well, I had a lot of thoughts about Ashley. As someone who is very openly a huge fan of Ashley, um, I was so happy and so proud to call myself a fan of hers. She stuck out even through disappointment, after highs and lows. She stuck out. Her skating just continually improves. It's gotten better and better. And you can watch Jackie Wong from Rocker Skating did a side-by-side comparison of Ashley's Moulin Rouge long program in 2015 to her 2016 Moulin Rouge program at Worlds. There's just a huge difference, not only in the program with more transitions, just more speed. The jumps are so much better than they were because her triple flip, triple toe, her triple triples aren't really scratched out so much anymore as they were. The triple flip, triple toe is almost money for her now. If she does it well, you can guarantee it's around. Almost. Not quite there. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But you know what? At the end of the day, it was just not only is the technical side important, it was just such a moment. She ended the drought that I didn't really think was a big deal, but everyone made it a big deal. But the medal drought is over. Ashley ended it with a phenomenal performance, and I don't really have a lot to say other than congrats, and I'm so happy for her.
Before I get to Ashley's actual skating, I will say this. Despite being a three-time national champion, I don't think Ashley has ever stopped being the underdog. I think coming into Worlds, there was so much talk around how she was training, whether she was going to bomb the short program and come back in the free like she was known for doing. But I think she silenced all those, speculations, those negative comments with her performance this year. And, the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. And it's certainly true here. I think that do I think that Ashley benefited from her underdog status? Certainly, because I think that mentality tends to fuel her. But to justify that as the core and the sole reason that she got on the world podium would be really doing a disservice to all that she has worked so hard to accomplish. I think her skating looks just so much stronger and cleaner here. She looked like a different skater. She was on fire. She wasn't second guessing herself. She didn't let that mistake on the flip. She didn't let that affect. She went out and did a super big clean triple Lutz to end the program, and so she didn't let her mistakes affect her throughout. And so I think that going forward, the fact that Ashley was able to medal, it's been a long time coming, for her personally and for U.S. ladies figure skating as a whole. Like Bronwyn mentioned, so much has been made of the medal drought, and now we can finally stop talking about it. But more than that, I think that Ashley has proved time and again that just when you think she's done improving, just when you think she's got no more tricks up her sleeve. She comes out and she surprises you again. And so um, she's been looking forward in recent interviews. She's been talking about the 2018 Olympics, as all skaters have been talking about, um, near the end of the off season. And so, speaking of that, obviously it's so hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 2 seasons. But that Olympic medal, I think is not out of reach by any means. I think that with this trajectory, we're definitely seeing the rebirth of Ashley Wagner. We're seeing improvement. We're seeing a new mentality. Probably, she's mentioned new training tactics with RAF that are helping her tremendously. And I'm just so excited. I know I say this about every skater, but I'm just so excited to see what she does in the future, because I know that she's going to keep me on my toes. She's going to keep all of her fans, even people who aren't necessarily rooting for her. She's going to keep the surprises coming, because that's just who she is.
Exactly. And I feel like with skaters like Ashley, who at an early age, someone may tell them, a coach may tell them, they're not the most talented jumper. They're not the most talented performer. They're not the most talented artist. I feel like other people would have resigned and would have just subjected themselves to that role and still worked within that bubble. Ashley bursted that bubble. Ashley just defied all the boundaries, all the like external boundaries, the externally imposed boundaries, and I think it's just been such a wonderful progression. And like you said, Kathy, it's going to be so exciting to see what else she can improve upon, because just when you think she's done it all, she's not done. She's not done. And I can't wait to see where she goes. Speaking of the Americans, let's move on to the fourth place finisher here at the World Championships, Gracie Gold, who led the short program, I think much to some people's surprises, that I was really, again, good on her. Good on her for, the pressure is mostly great after the short program when she's had a clean short. But I think even before this short program, there was a lot of pressure. Home worlds, that whole medal drought sensationalism. But I just think it was so great to see her do really well in the short program. But again, I worry a little bit for her after seeing this free skate. I mean, not a disaster at all. She only doubled the Lutz and she had the mistake on the toe loop. Everything else was clean. I'm happy that she didn't let the program come undone because of these few mistakes. She maintained, she kept up the quality of the jumps and the quality of the performance. I will say that. However, I don't know. I don't have the answers for her. I don't know if it's something with her creative team, with her camp, possibly with Frank. But she just doesn't look like she's having as much fun as she was. And I feel like, as she once was, out on competition ice. And I feel like your love for the sport it has to be there if you're going to be at the top of podiums. I feel like you have to love your sport. You have to love what you do. And not to say that she hates the sport and she's only doing this out of obligation, but it's slowly turning into that, and I don't want it to, because she's so gifted. She's such a gifted jumper, and there's so much there. I don't quite know what she's going to do. I don't quite know where she's going to go, but I hope that she can, again, sort of like Ashley, have, not that she ever faded away really in the sport, but I hope that she can have a rebirth in attitude and personality towards the sport. What did you guys make of Gracie, and what would you possibly recommend that she do?
Honestly, this is just from, obviously, I don't know her personally. I can't really, I don't really want to speculate too much, but I feel like she puts too much stock in competitions and how happy she does, she's happier the better she does, which everyone should be, of course, and it's great to have, that kind of focus. But you could tell she was just really disappointed in herself, and it was heartbreaking, honestly, because she didn't skate that badly. She didn't have her best long program, but she scored 76 in the short program. That's really good. So I just honestly, I don't know what to say about that because she's not doing badly for herself at all. I think she has, like you said, Will, she is just such a gifted jumper. And there's just so much. And I think when she skates clean, we actually get to see more of the real Gracie on the ice. And the short program, that was probably the best performance she's ever done, period. I saw a lot more personality. She looked like she was having a blast. But then, like, the long program came out, and when she does a bad performance, you don't see that. Like, whereas someone like Ashley, even if she makes a mistake, she's still going to perform. Gracie shuts down. And I hope that she can find something within herself or within her team or whatever. If she can find something to really, spark her passion and spark, the Gracie that we saw in the short program and less the Gracie that we saw in the long program.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that what's holding her back at this point is mostly psychological, and I don't want to
Mhm.
speak too much on that because I just don't have the knowledge.
Mhm.
But I just I worry about her because the mistakes that she's making, they're not consistent mistakes, if that makes sense. Like, with Ashley, it's going to be under rotating the triple triple
Mhm.
or, the wrong edge takeoff on the Lutz. But with Gracie, it's almost like you can't predict what kind of mistakes that she's going to make when she freezes up. It could be the flip, it could be a step out, it could be basically anything. And that, to me, um, the disparity between that kind of performance and what we see of her in practice and hear about her in practice, which is that she's basically flawless in practice. I think that just shows it's something about the competitive mentality that's holding her back. It's something about the way she approaches these competitions. And when she skates clean, she's on top of the world after the short program. I think she was really relishing that that accomplishment. I think that she was very proud of herself, as she should have been. But the free skate, it was devastating to hear her talk about it.
Mhm.
In the mixed zone after her free skate, she was saying that she had let herself down, she had let her country down, and um, it's for anybody, regardless of whether you're a fan of her or not. It's just disheartening to see because you know that all of that is coming from within herself. You know that no matter what anybody else says, she's going to be her own worst critic. And I think that, to put it into perspective, she still finished fourth at Worlds, which is incredible. I mean, she only made two major mistakes in the free skate. A lot of her jumps were really solid, really clean, great height and coverage. But it's just, I don't know how to, address that. I'm not a professional, but I think that it's not a matter of a lack of talent. It's not a lack of um, practice or anything technical that you can measure because she has everything. She has all the ingredients. She's a very talented jumper. Her jumps come so effortlessly to her. When that triple Lutz triple toe is clean, it's one of the best in the world. We've talked about this before. And so I think that at this point, Gracie should not count herself out at all going forward. I mean, she and Ashley are still head to head, tied for the number one U.S. lady. So I think that going forward, it's just going to be about improving consistency because although she was not the one to break that medal drought or to end that medal drought, excuse me, I think that this is still going to be a learning experience for her, and it's definitely going to push her to um, be more, I guess, mentally tough and it's going to push her to be more determined to earn those medals in the future.
Certainly. I think she would definitely benefit from taking like a month off, not maybe a full month, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, just to all these skaters, when the world championships are ahead, it is their goal, it is what they're working for. And I think it's great to be goal oriented, and I know Gracie is. You can see it and you can hear it when she interviews, how prospectively she's thinking. But I think she would certainly benefit from just like going off the grid and just exploring other things, like for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, going on vacation, doing something else not near a rink, and then going back, I think, with a renewed, with a freshness and a new confidence. I just feel like she would benefit from more worldly perspective, and see that there is more to her life than skate. There's more to her, to who she is than skating. And it may not seem like that during the season, but there's more to all of these skaters than there is just to their skating. So I hope she can see that, and I hope she can apply that in competition and realize that when she makes a mistake, the world doesn't start turning the other direction. So I really hope she can understand that in this off season. And I do think, though, speaking of her programs, both programs certainly steps in the right direction. I grew to really enjoy her short program, and the free skate improved. Still not where I think it can be and where it should be to be a top lady in the world, but it's certainly, in terms of her raw skating, in terms of the programs at least, certainly a step in the right direction. Let's move on to the skater who rounded out the top five, the highest placing Japanese skater here, Satoko Miyahara of Japan, putting together. I mean, she's basically as programmed as Medvedeva, just going out there and performing and hitting. It's mind-boggling, quite honestly. She has to be one of the most consistent Japanese skaters possibly ever. I mean, because Japanese skaters are, not to pigeonhole or stereotype or generalize, but I know what's plagued top Japanese skaters in the past is their enormous talent and their ability at times to not skate up to it, and not be as consistent as they can be. But Satoko is just a machine. The way she can rattle off these jumps is fantastic. And placing third in the free skate, again, speaks to sort of her underdog nature and the way she was able to just gear all of the negative energy towards her performance, negative energy from the sixth place after the short program, which I still think was a little bit low in terms of the score. In general, her scores, I feel like she's always low-balled, but that's besides the point. Again, really, really a bit of a letdown after finishing second last year at Worlds, but this field came ready to play, and they certainly did. And I think Satoko was sort of a victim of that, because she's just been doing what she's been doing all season, and everyone else just stepped it up all the way. Not to say that Satoko has done everything she could do to be a top lady in the world, but I just think she suffered a little bit from all the other ladies being just ridiculous. But, I mean, still two great programs. Good on her for nabbing that small bronze medal for the free skate and for notching a top five finish. What did you guys make of Satoko here?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. Her long program isn't my favorite program personally, but it doesn't change the fact that she does it beautifully. And not only is she so consistent with the jumps, she performed so well. Her connection to the music, it's not in your face. And I think that because of that, her PCS isn't as high as other people's PCS could be. And I disagree with that, but you can just see that she just has this innate connection with the music. It's beautiful. I love her short program, her fire dance. It's actually a lot more fiery than you'd expect someone like Satoko to do, and it's like, I know Fire Dance is very fiery, but but you definitely she just gives it, and the music builds, it builds up, and at the end it's just so good, and she's able to nail it every single time. Um, so and even then, I went back and watched her Miss Saigon long program recently. You can even see her jumps have gotten a lot better. They're just getting better and better. I don't think they'll ever be, super big jumps. I don't, but you can tell she's getting a lot better, and they're getting higher and a little bit less whippy, I guess, as they might be because she is so small. But I'm very impressed by her skating, and I continue to be impressed by her. I think she is a magnificent skater, one who probably doesn't get the respect that she deserves from the judges. And I'm really excited to see her next programs because she really doesn't disappoint with, although her long program was my favorite, I know everyone else was, really into it. And she's able to perform it so beautifully. I can't wait to see what's next.
You mentioned Satoko's PCS, and I have to agree with you. I think they're consistently lower than what she should be getting. But at the same time, I think that judges are definitely taking note of her ability to connect with the audience and to portray her music in a very distinctive and very effective way. I think that not too long ago, she was getting, straight sevens in PCS, and that has consistently risen over the past couple of seasons, which is a really great step in the right direction for her. And her consistency is definitely a bonus. She hasn't really made any egregious errors all season, which you could pretty much not say about any other skater, not even Evgenia, who has, had errors in the short program, for example. And so for Satoko, I just think that she I'm not sure personally why the judges hold her down time and again, but I think it has to do with, like Brown mentioned, the size of her jumps, and I think that people tend to interpret that as a lack of power. But at the same time, if you look at her actual skating, her transitions, her steps, it's not that she's not a powerful skater. It's just that she skates. The scale of her skating is smaller than a lot of other skaters, and so what do I was surprised, as you guys were, that she finished all the way in 5th place, given that she was the world silver medalist last year. But honestly, I don't think there was a lot more that she could have done. It was just that everybody else brought their A game at the same time, and so that sort of burden fell on her to. But she was a point away basically from 4th place. So the given that she was underscored, in my opinion, in the short program, it could have been. I mean, 4th, 5th, and 6th could have been in any order basically. It was so close between those 3 ladies. And I think it just comes down to, in the heat of the moment, who can produce those results. And I think that it is really impressive that Satoko can deliver time and time again. And I think that going forward, judges will continue to reward her for that, because as we've seen, PCS tend to rise over time, not only over the course of a season, but over the course of a skater's career. So that natural trajectory, I think, is going to be great for her. And I really look forward to her programs next season.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said about the lack of height on the jumps meaning a lack of power, which it doesn't at all, because I totally agree with that. Some people, and they also do, people liken her lack of height to her lack of performance. They're mutually exclusive. You can't cross-reference those, because her performance is just so outward, and she skates so big. I would say she skates, she doesn't let the rink or the crowd overwhelm her. She takes control. And it also is worthy to note, for perspective's sake, that her program component scores, like you guys implied, are not low. just relative to the rest of the field, they are seeming low and are not as high as they should be. And I totally agree with that. But I'm really excited to see where she'll go next season. She has so much to work off of, just with her consistency with the jumps and still a fifth place finish, very, very respectable. Let's move on to the sixth place finisher quickly. The surprisingly, I'd say, the lowest ranking of the Russians, Lenya Radionova. She was sixth, like you mentioned, Kathy. Fourth, fifth, and sixth, and honestly, even third, were separated by a very, very small margin. And so I wouldn't say that this is a disaster for Elena. She almost broke 210. I mean, come on. But she had some issues with her Lutz, which is starting to concern me, because she also had issues with that in the short program last night at Team Challenge Cup. But, she put together not her two strongest of the season by any means, but she's definitely carried through the momentum from last season through to this season and through to these World Championships. I hope she doesn't let this result sort of taint her view, her self-image, and her self-concept, because I think she, again, has so much talent. Still has things to work on, but I would say this is disappointing, but not like a disaster or cataclysmic by any means. What did you guys think of Elena here?
Yeah, I agree. It's not like she did badly, it's just that everyone else did better. And I think the fact that she has literally grown a foot over the course of the season and yet still managed to stay, in the thick of things, in the top of the ladies' field. I saw this on Twitter, and I was like, that's totally right. It's almost hard. She's gotten so much taller, and that's going to mess with your technique a lot. And I think in the off season, she'll be able to retool and fix up her technique to match her new height. Because, it happens in the middle of the season, and you're just trying to stick with what you know. And that's really hard. So I respect her a lot for that. And not only that, I find her to be one of the more dynamic of the Russian ladies. I find her performances just be filled with so much passion, and she gives her all, even if she's making mistakes, even if she's not having a good skate. She's still performing, and I just love to see that from her. You can tell she really enjoys the sport. I think this will definitely fuel her for next season. I do worry about her technique, and like you said, her Lutz has gotten a lot scratchier as the season's gone on. But I think that once she has the time to kind of regroup and recover and figure out, okay, what do we need to fix with her team, I think that we will be seeing a lot stronger of a performance from her, like we did closer to the beginning of the season and last season.
Yeah, I think Elena is a really exciting skater to watch. She has a really big presence, given her age, and she sort of fills the arena with how much she projects to the audience, and that comes across even when you're just watching her on camera. Like you guys mentioned, it's really tough, to be in the middle of a growth spurt where you have to adjust your technique, where your center of gravity is different and it's shifting. And so I think given those circumstances, she's doing pretty well for herself. Again, the technique is going to have to be addressed, to say the least, because right now it just looks like she's muscling out those jumps. They don't come as effortlessly to her as they used to. She's jumping with her arms, basically. And not that that's not working for her, but the technique could be smoother, and it's not something that I think is going to be sustainable going forward, so she has to work on that, and I'm sure she will. It's not something that's going to take her out of the running for in terms of the sport. It's definitely something she can recover, and for that to be your biggest problem, is ideal, because you know exactly how to fix it. And so, yeah, like you guys mentioned, the point margin between fourth, fifth, and sixth was so small that, ending up in this position is nothing to scoff at, certainly. And I think that Elena will come back strong because she's just that type of skater. She has a lot of grit, and I think she'll come back strong on the Grand Prix again next season.
Definitely. I think it's worth noting, Satoko and Elena finished in the same order that they did last year, except they were both on the podium last year in second and third, respectively. And I think it's a testament to just how hungry the ladies of the world are to nab these world medals and place as high as they can. So I think Satoko and Elena, by these finishes alone, are gonna be determined next season to do all they can to say, hey, like, we're not done. Don't forget about us. And I don't think anyone has or anyone will. Let's move on to the seventh place finisher, Mao Asada, who had somewhat of an underwhelming short program, especially. But I have to say, Kathy and I were privileged enough to see the free skate live, and Mao is a legend. She is a legend. I mean, just I have visions of her from the Olympic season from 2005 2006, and just how like light and springy and how much of a jumper she was and how much of a not artist she was. But now oh my, a complete transformation. It's so amazing how. And this wasn't even like this Madame Butterfly. It's not even my favorite program of hers, but her movement is so pure and it's so understanding of the music. And it's just every bit of experience she has and experience and maturity she has just pours out through her skating. And it's so magical. It was really just such a magical moment. Slight mistakes in the short and the free aside. It was just the performance just had to be one of the most moving of the night, definitely along with Ashley's, I'd say. Um, what did you guys make of Mao here?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, as usual. I think Mao, like you said, she's a legend. And you could tell she was just, despite not having the best season, she started off really, really, really strong at Japan Open and Cup of China, and then the wheels sort of fell off a bit. And so we came into Worlds not really knowing what to expect, but I think the seventh place finish is not a bad thing. It's probably not where she wants to be, but I think she's in a good shape going forward. And she's just someone, I don't know if anyone could really pull off Madame Butterfly as well as she did, because she understands the music. You can tell, you can see it from her head to her toes. There's just this great understanding and respect for the music, I'd say. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just, I don't know the opera that well, but I know Madame Butterfly is not a happy story by any means. And you can see it in her facial expressions, you can see the sorrow of the story. And I think that's just so wonderful. And I really missed having Mao around. I'm so glad she's back. Even if she doesn't, she doesn't have to win everything. As long as she's happy and she's loving what she's doing. I am so grateful that we get to see Mao for until 2018 again.
Yeah, there's not that much I can say about Mao that hasn't already been said by you guys and by countless other fans. She's an icon, and for good reason. I think it speaks to her incredible abilities as a skater that even when she's not perfect in the jumps, it's not disruptive to the program. It doesn't interfere with how much you enjoy it. And of course, we hope she's clean all the time. But even when that doesn't happen, you don't feel let down as a viewer just because she has so much to back up her skating. Her basics are so strong, and her ability to interpret the music is, the top of the field. And I don't see this. I see a kind of a parallel between her performance at Worlds and Patrick Chan's performance at Worlds. Obviously both are making their comebacks, both are probably reaching for 2018 as their next goal, and both of them are walking away with not ideal finishes, but not disappointing finishes. So they're somewhere in the middle. There's room to go up, but also not a disaster by any means. So I think it's a good springboard, going forward. I think Mal could definitely use this to motivate her, but at the same time, she knows that even when things don't work out as planned, she's not going to be disappointed. It's not going to be, she has room to fall back because of all the elements of her skating that make it so strong.
Certainly. Yeah, she's one that just never lets the performance suffer should she make mistakes in the jumps. And that's just such a rare quality in a skater, I think. Before we move on to Rika and Mirai and our closing statements, I just want to gush about Gabrielle Damon really quickly because I know, like no one really. I thought she was very overlooked at these World Championships. She placed in the top 10, had 2 fantastic programs, and since Sochi, I was never really a fan of hers. I actually didn't quite like her skating in Sochi, but she's made such progress, such incredible progress, and her short program is so good. It's so good, you guys, and I love it. And I don't know what it is about it that I love so much, but it's so like playful and like coy, and the choreography is wonderful. Again, Laurie Nickel, just bow down, but so good, and I can't wait to see what she does. A 195.68 is a fantastic score, and I also hope this almost angers Elaine Chartrand a little bit, that she's seeing Gabby have so much international success, because Elaine is just so wonderful too. She's one of our favorites as well. So I can't wait to see these 2 Canadian ladies improve upon themselves and upon each other. Really excited to see what they do. But yeah, good on Gabby for making that top 10 and having 2 fantastic skates. Did you guys have anything to add about them?
No, I think you pretty much covered it with that. Okay. She's just improved a lot since 2014, I will say that.
What about you, Kathy?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I also really enjoy both of her programs, especially her short program. She's really won me over as a fan. I think that she made her impression, certainly, at this Worlds, and she established herself as someone to watch in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely another one to watch for the future. 8th place finisher Rika Hongo, who rivaled Mao here. She was within 2 points of Mao, which is not something that a lot of skaters in the world or people ever can say they've done, is rival Mao Asada. I mean, Rika, again, so much improvement from last season in terms of her extension and her form and her line. It's really, really improved, and I love to see her river dance is really, really wonderful. I love that performance, and everything has just been so much more extension. There's been so much more extension in terms of her body line and in terms of her performance. I'm really excited to see her progress even more. Hopefully she continues to work with Akiko Suzuki in the future, because I think that's worked wonders for her skating. Again, a really good performance. Really good World Championships for her. Did you guys have anything to add about Rika?
Yes. I love her programs this season. They are so unique, and they're so cool. And the fact that, okay, so she wanted to do river dance, and everyone was kind of like, okay, well, Jason Brown already did it, and he's more well-known for it. But she made it totally and 100% her own. One of the coolest things I remember about it is that they're like, oh, we could put a spiral here, but they admitted her spirals aren't as good. So they put in the Irish stepping, similar to that on the ice, and it's just such a moment in that program. And she definitely bounced back from a bit of a rocky middle of the season, I'd say. And I just love her programs. They are unique. They're really cool to watch. I like the short program because nobody's really ever used that particular piece of music very often. I'm just very impressed by her. She's definitely made me a fan this season. I know there's a lot that she has to work on still, but they're just so cool, you guys. I really like the music and her programs.
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. Last season, I didn't pay that much attention to her. When she made the Grand Prix final, I was just like, oh, okay. Maybe she got lucky. Maybe it'll happen again. Maybe not. Um, which was unfair of me because this season, I mean, the vast improvements. Her programs this season are such crowd pleasers. You have the crowd not only clapping along, but just being really engaged with the performance, and that's always a good thing. I think it took me watching her free skate in person to be able to fully appreciate the connection that she has with the audience and how much she draws them into her performance and how much of a showwoman she's become. And so I think going forward, that's going to be one of her strengths because she's not necessarily the most sophisticated or most precise skater. There's a lot of parts about her skating that could be improved in terms of just polish. But it's a good place to be at this point in her career. I think when we talk about Japanese ladies, it's always Satoko and Mao at the front of the conversation. Even Wakaba Higuchi in juniors, and so Rika kind of gets overlooked, but she's not at all one to be counted out. She almost broke 200 at this at Worlds. She was behind Mao by just over a point, I believe. So that is tremendous, for her. And she wasn't even perfect. She had a slight bobble, I believe, in the free skate, and so she can do even better when she's clean. And it's really exciting just to see somebody come up from. I guess it's just really exciting to see someone be built from the ground up and continuously improve as a skater.
Certainly, I agree. And I like what you said, Bronwyn, about the amendment from the spiral to the Irish step dancing. I didn't know that. And I think it really speaks to how smart she is and how smart her creative team is and how they can kind of suppress weaknesses and multiply strengths and just manipulate those strengths and make them as IJS friendly as possible, if you will, while still being a performance. And I think that she had distinct moments in her free skate, like the step dancing, she did like a little like hip swizzle, like, or whatever before her footwork. And there were just like a lot of little nuances that people could really grab onto and say, that's really cool. And I'm happy she was able to do that this season. Can't wait to see where she goes. So our final skater of discussion, to round out the top 10, Mirai Nagasu, who defied all the odds to even make this world team. I mean, granted, Paulina had that injury, but people have been starting to count, not people in our skating community, but I know certain people or certain communities of people have been counting her out. And she will not let that happen. She will not let that happen. It was such a magical competition for Mirai, especially that short program. I mean, like, I can't stop watching that footwork. It's so good. It's so good. And the growth especially in the short program, I know all season, her one critique of that short program is that she wasn't giving enough in that footwork, and I think she definitely gave enough to compensate for all of those deficient times in this season in the past. And she was able to just maintain her position in the free skate. It wasn't her greatest performance, but I think she solidified her being on this world team. It was not a fluke. It was not a mistake. And I was so happy to see her perform so well for herself. And that was just wonderful to see. What did you guys think of Mirai?
I totally and completely agree with you. I feel like I say that all the time, but I guess we're just similar people.
Great minds think alike.
Exactly. But yeah, no, Mirai this season, just what an incredible season overall for her. She nailed all of her major competitions. She only got one Grand Prix NHK, and she was like, okay, fine, blew it out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect great competition for her. U.S. Nationals, she broke a boot. No big deal. I'm just going to win the pewter medal anyway. 4 continents, okay, cool. Time for me to go win the silver medal. Worlds, okay, great. I'm going to do it really, really well. Very, very minor mistakes for her. And for her to finish in the top 10 in her first Worlds appearance since 2010 is just so impressive, and it just speaks to her growth as not only a skater, just her perseverance. The fact that she did not give up despite having disappointments like 2014 and 2015 nationals. She pushed through. She proved all the haters wrong. Like that gif of her drop the mic, boom. But yeah, I'm very proud to see her skate and perform so well, especially being added to the world team pretty last minute. I knew that she was ready, but when you're going in as the alternate, you're still not. You don't have as much time as you would
have
like.
Something to prove.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm just really, really glad for her to put out such a great Worlds performance.
Yeah, despite being the alternate and having so little time to prepare for Worlds, I think Mirai did fabulously for herself. And I think by no means did she perform less spectacularly than perhaps Polina would have if she had been at Worlds. So I think that just speaks to the fact that Mirai is certainly on the rise, and despite having been counted out for all these years, she's asserting herself again in the conversation of U.S. ladies, but also in the world. Top 10 at Worlds is nothing to scoff at. Her programs this season, admittedly, her free skate isn't my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the music cuts and how just abrupt they are, but she still skated it to the best of her ability. She just sold it. She gave it her all. There's so many fluctuations in just mood and tone, given all the pieces of music that are in it. But she delivered all of them with equally convincingly, and I think that's really impressive to me. To be able to capture the entire spectrum of emotions in such a short period of time. And her short program, it's grown on me so much, and I already, at the start of the season, I was already a fan, but it just grew on me even more, and I think it's so moving as a testament and as sort of a metaphor for her skating career, and the fact that she has had to overcome so many demons, if you will, whether they be naysayers or disappointments or not being named to the Olympic team or anything specific like that. I think that Mirai, like Ashley, is on the way up. Just when you think that you've seen everything from her, she's proving you wrong.
Certainly, yeah. To that, and with that, we'd like to encourage all of you to follow us on Twitter at Lutz and Glory and keep subscribing to our channel and keep liking these videos. We thank you so, so much for your support. Do you guys have anything else to add about Worlds or about the ladies field?
No, but as always, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate, just because we hadn't put out a video in a while when we posted our part 1, just to see so many positive responses to people being excited we're back. It just really, oh my god, for me personally, it really warmed my heart. I was really happy to see that people missed us and that, we have such a really good fan base and lots of people supporting us. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you guys for the continuous comments. Thank you for the feedback and the constructive criticism. We really take that to heart, and we really appreciate it because we're always striving to be better, as a podcast team. And from Let's and Glory, I'm Kathy.
I'm Bronwyn.
And I'm Will. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Your eyes, they shine so bright. I wanna save that light. I can't escape this now unless you show